Hello everyone, Espero here, and welcome back for another unit builder. It's been a busy week here in FEH, and with the newest pirate-themed banner that just dropped, the fun never stops. We've got a Tempest Trials event that just started, and as always, that means we've got a free Grail unit to look forward to. From Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, say hello to Darros. Now, admittedly, I have no idea who this character is, and if I'm being entirely honest, they look like a generic NPC. However, FEH has done a fantastic job with their art, and I'm certain that fans of ProZD are thrilled to see Sunwang Cho as the voice actor. But most importantly, because they are our free unit, we of course have to talk about him. Darros is making his debut into FEH as an infantry axe unit. At 5 stars level 40, his neutral stats read as HP 46, attack 36, speed 32, defense 37, and resistance 21. And as a reminder, because he is a free unit, he will be locked to neutral stats. Now, admittedly, this stat spread isn't particularly unique. Solid attack, middling speed, high defense, low resistance. It's what we've seen on a lot of the free infantry axe units that we've been getting over the past year, specifically on Hinata and Bartra, who were two of the other Tempest Trial units from earlier this year. Darros has 46 HP, which is a solid starting point for anyone wanting to run infantry pulse or similar HP based skills. 36 attack is also pretty solid. It's not insanely high by any means, but it's very much workable, and he'll definitely be able to dish out some damage with him. 32 speed is a bit more polarizing, however. Without some incredibly high investment, it's going to take a lot to be able to salvage his speed stat, and for many new players who are low on resources, it's probably best to just go all in on attack and defense. That just leaves his resistance left at 21, which is unfortunately really low, so he's going to want to stay clear of any magical threats. Moving on to his base kit, we've got his weapon, which is certainly the most exciting part here, and probably why some of you guys are even watching this. Darros comes with the Deck Swabber Plus, which is basically a glorified mop. It's got 14 might, and much like all the other new weapons introduced on this banner, it's got a built-in solo effect. So long as he isn't adjacent to any allies during combat, he automatically inflicts attack and defense -5 on the foe and neutralizes that foe's bonuses to these two stats. This is actually an insanely good axe. This is literally a lull skill as an effect. In fact, it's almost better than a lull skill since it inflicts -5 as opposed to the usual -3. Now, one could argue that it's not as good as a lull skill since it does require him to be isolated in order for its effect to work, but in a meta that's really encouraging us to go for those solo and rouse skills, it's a fantastic weapon. I honestly might consider slapping it on my Jerome since flyers don't even have access to lull skills, so that's something worth considering. Moving on, in his Sys skill, Darros comes with Shove, which isn't too exciting, but it does allow him to shove any adjacent allies away from him in case he were running a Rouse skill and needed to be alone at the start of the next turn. In his A slot, he's got Earth Boost 3, which grants Darros +6 defense if he's got HP higher than the enemy's HP +3 at the start of combat. Honestly, it disappoints me to see that we're still getting boost skills on new units in 2020, and yet, here we are. I do wonder if they'll ever get a tier 4 variant though, as I don't think there's ever been a point in time at which these skills have ever been desirable. Anyway, lastly, we've got Odd Defense Wave 3, which grants Darros an out-of-combat bonus of +6 defense to himself and any adjacent allies on odd number turns. I've said this before and I'll say it again, wave skills are a great budget-friendly option for anyone looking to provide a little extra utility to a unit. Being able to grant that buff to both your unit and any adjacent allies can be incredibly handy, especially when running any Blade Tome builds or bonus doubler builds. The best part is that this skill will activate regardless of whether you're adjacent to allies or completely alone. Alright, and that is it for our base kit. Nothing too exciting aside from the weapon, but I'm sure the overwhelming majority of you are probably just gonna fodder him off anyway, so there's that. But for those of you who actually do plan to build him, let's see what we can do. On to build number 1. For any new players out there who might be short on units and looking to build a solid frontliner, this build aims to make good use of Darros with as few resources as possible. Starting with his weapon, we're going to keep the Deck Swabber Plus, but tack on a Refine in defense, granting him an additional +4 to his base defense. In his special slot, we're going to tack on Bonfire, which is my preferred choice for any unit who's got high defense. Bonfire scales its damage boost off of your unit's defense in combat, so the higher your defense, the more damage you'll do once it activates. As for Darros' A skill, there are a few budget-friendly options worth considering. I think that Steady Stance 3 or Sturdy Stance 2 might be your best options, as they're both great enemy phase skills that grant Darros some extra defense when engaged on by enemies. Steady Stance in particular can be found on Silas, who also has reposition, so you can certainly grab both skills from just one unit if that's something that you might be interested in. In his B slot, we're going to go ahead and plug in Quick Riposte 3. It's pretty much your standard B skill for any high defense, low speed enemy phase units, and it guarantees Darros a follow-up attack in the enemy phase so long as he keeps his HP above 75%. It's a fairly easy condition to meet, and he'll certainly need it to patch up his low speed. In his C slot, we've got a few options. You're more than welcome to keep Odd Defense Wave from his base kit, as it's a fairly solid option for anyone on a budget. As I already mentioned, he'll get that extra defense on odd number turns, and be able to spread the bonus to any adjacent allies as well. However, if you manage to get a Summer Sylvain, who was the demoted unit on the most recent Summer banner, he comes with Rouse Attack Defense 3, which would be a fantastic option for Darros, given the nature of his weapon. He'll want to be isolated when in combat, and if you're willing to make sure he's isolated at the start of each turn as well, he'll get +6 attack and defense. Definitely another great choice for him if you decided to pull on the most recent banners. And lastly, in his S slot, I decided to throw in Sturdy Stance 2. Much like with our A slot, Sturdy Stance 2 is another fantastic choice. It's just a matter of whether or not you'd like to stack more defense, or split and go for both attack and defense. Sturdy Stance 2 in particular grants attack and defense +4 on the enemy phase, so it's really just a matter of preference. Alrighty, and that is it for our budget build. Pretty simple, nothing innovative here, but enemy phase axe units are pretty common nowadays in FEH and usually end up using very similar skills, especially when on a budget. So, for our second build, we'll try and see what we can do with Darros once we start investing more heavily into him. On to build number 2. Alright, for build number 2, we're keeping his base weapon, but replacing the Refine in defense with a Refine in speed. This is sort of a meme build, but I want to show you guys how you can actually take a unit like Darros, who might have middling speed, and really recover it. Jumping over to our A slot, we're going to plug in Attack Speed Solo 3, which grants him attack and speed +6 in combat so long as he's not adjacent to any allies. Sound familiar? It should, because it has the same conditions as his weapon effect. Since both his weapon and his skill require him to be alone during combat, you might as well go for a solo build, since they'll basically be able to activate together. Now do keep in mind that Attack Speed Solo 4 does already exist thanks to Fallen Corrin. However, for the sake of this build today, we'll only be using Attack Speed Solo 3. If you've got the fodder though, by all means go right ahead. Alright, for our B slot, we're gonna throw in Spurn 3. Now, for those of you that saw my summoning session from last month in which I attempted to get Spurn 3 fodder, you're probably gonna laugh at me for throwing this skill onto this build, and to be honest, I don't blame you. But Spurn 3 is an incredibly great skill, and I do believe that it power creeps Repel and Close Call. I would much rather have that extra 5 damage than Draw Back as a weapon effect. Now, for any players who don't know or might be new, all 3 of these skills mentioned can reduce the damage your unit takes by up to 40%, based on how much higher your unit's speed is over the enemies. In order to benefit from the full 40% damage reduction, your speed has to be 10 points higher than the enemies, which is a pretty wide margin, I know. But keep watching, you'll see how fast our pirate buddy can get. In his C slot, we're going to throw in Rouse Speed Defense 3, which grants us +6 speed and defense so long as we aren't adjacent to any allies at the start of a turn. For this build, we really want that extra speed, and the extra defense is just a nice bonus as it'll make him even harder to kill. What's especially nice about this skill is how accessible it is, since it can be found on Ferdinand, who is also available in the 4-star summoning pool. Okay, and lastly, in our Sacred Seal, I am throwing in Phantom Speed, which is going to be an incredibly important part of this build. Phantom Speed is a skill that is exclusively found in the Sacred Seal Forge, and what it does is that in combat, whenever a speed check is performed, it calculates your unit's speed as if it were 10 points higher. So, for example, and we'll use our current build as an example, between our A skill and C skill, we're getting a total of +12 speed. That's 6 from his solo skill and 6 from his rouse skill. So that's 12 speed on top of his base speed. So 35 plus 12 is 47, which is fine, but I don't think it's really enough to make full use of skills like Spurn 3. That's why, with Phantom Speed, our base speed is going to be calculated at 57 as opposed to 47 every time we do a speed check. 57 speed is very high, and a great place to be for anyone running Spurn, Repel, or Close Call, ensuring that we'll be getting that full 40% damage reduction more frequently. Okay, and that is it for build number 2, and for those of you that watched Rival Bromains a few weeks ago, yes, this is a modified version of the solo build I had whipped up for my Ross. In case you haven't already seen Rival Bromains, I'll go ahead and leave a link at the top right corner, and it'll take you over to Speedyhawk's channel. The only other thing I'd like to mention before moving forward is that in case you don't want to invest in Darros' speed, he could certainly benefit from inheriting almost all of Duo Veronica's kit. Low attack and defense 3 will certainly stack with this weapon, totaling out to -8 attack and defense in combat to the enemy, which is pretty hefty. Do keep in mind that both his weapon and the lull skill have the same additional effect of neutralizing any bonuses to the foe's attack and defense. And so, if this seems a little redundant to you, low attack speed might be a better option. That leaves Attack Defense Solo 4 as the A skill to inherit from her, which, as you can probably guess, is another solo skill that has the exact same conditions to activate. Also, friendly reminder that Attack Defense Solo 3 is available in the Divine Codex thanks to Winter Ephraim. So, if you manage to inherit Attack Defense Solo 1, 2, and 3 from Ephraim, you can grab the Tier 4 variant and the complete lull skill from killing just one lolly, which is the most cost efficient way to go about it anyway. Alright, and that is it for our 2 builds today. Here are what his stats look like when fully merged up. Needless to say, his defense can come up pretty damn high, and there's quite a bit of potential here. I'm sure that for those of you who are huge fans of ProZD, myself included, and his skits, you'll likely get a kick out of building him, and I hope this video gives you an idea of how to do so. Please let me know in the comment section below what you plan to do with him. To be completely honest with you guys, I'm probably going to go ahead and give his axe over to Ross, just to see if he likes it more than the huge fan. What can I say? It's a really good weapon. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like or subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. It seriously helps me out a lot with visibility, and it would make my day. Also, if you haven't already heard, I live stream Saturdays and Sundays both here on YouTube and on Twitch. Saturdays at around 7 or 8 p.m, Sundays at about 2 p.m, all Eastern Standard Time. We do rival domain maps, and if you'd like to see me accidentally get your units killed right before your very eyes, feel free to drop by sometime. We have a good time. Okay, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoy the free orbs from Tempest Trials. I know I certainly need them. Until next time, happy saving, happy summoning, and take care.